Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Football Chuggu Podcast. My name is Thomas Durning, and today I am joined by my co-host, Pearse McLaughlin. Hello, Pearse.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing well. On today's podcast, we'll be reacting to last weekend's Scottish Premier League and English Premier League results. We'll be reacting to the latest Scotland squad announcement. We will also be discussing the transfer news from around the globe. And at the end of the podcast, Pearse will be giving a rundown of all the latest Asian football news. So coming up next, we'll be reacting to last weekend's Scottish Premier League results. So I'll just quickly go through them all. So Ross County 0, Rangers 2, Celtic 0, St Johnstone 0, Hibs 2, St Johnstone 3, Motherwell 2, Kilmarnock 1, Dundee 1, Hearts 0, St Mirren 2, Aberdeen 2. So Pearse, which match stands out to you from last weekend's Scottish Premier League results?
Well, I'm going to go with Dundee 1, Hearts 0. I believe it's Tony McIntyre's first win in the top flight for Dundee since they've been back in the division. And obviously Hearts have now got that kind of hangover from the European tie in the first leg where they lost at Tynecastle, surprisingly. But I thought, to a man, Dundee thoroughly deserved their 3 points. And they just, for a team that signed 12 to 13 new players, they seem to just look organised. I remember last time in the division 2 years ago, Dundee, they didn't really offer much of attack threat, but throughout that game, they caused Hearts series of problems. And what a goal to win it as well, because it's the high press that forces Hearts into a unnecessary mistake playing out from the back. And Luke McCowan scored an absolute wonder going to the top hand corner, catching Zander Clark off his line. But no, that's a standout fixture for me. Dundee kind of showing that they can fix it with the big boys.
Yeah, absolutely. So my match that stands out to me from last weekend is the Celtic result, which finished Celtic 0, St Johnstone 0. So that was St Johnstone's first point of the season. They've had a really bad start, but to go to Celtic Park and get a draw and not concede a goal as well, that would give them a lot of confidence. So, I think St Johnstone will probably be hoping that they'll kick on from that and build themselves a lot of confidence from that. But from a Celtic point of view, a very poor result again. Second week running that they haven't scored. I think that's pretty unheard of, to be honest with you. Usually Celtic score goals for fun, especially the last couple of years domestically. But the fact that they've now gone 2 weeks without scoring a goal kind of says that there's issues at Celtic at the moment. There's lots of injuries. Obviously Brendan Rodgers coming in, different style of management to Ange Postecoglou. And it just seems to be that the players are still trying to get used to everything. It's Rangers obviously lost in the opening week. And Celtic obviously, had an advantage to that, but now Celtic have dropped points. So that gap now obviously shortens. So that's although there was no goals or anything, there wasn't the most exciting match to watch. That's probably my standout match from the weekend, just in terms of St Johnstone going to Celtic Park and getting a result and also not conceding any goals. But I also want to just briefly touch on Motherwell, Kilmarnock. So Motherwell won that game 2-1. Motherwell, they've had an unbeaten start to the season, 7 points from 3 games. That kind of, you touched on it before the start of the season, that they might struggle without Kevin Van Veen, but at the moment, they seem to be doing all right without him. They scored in the last kick of the game at the weekend as well, which shows that the team spirit there is really good at the moment. They seem to be really a really good team unit. So just wanted to briefly touch on that Motherwell result as well. So we also have to touch on the fact that there's been the first managerial sacking from the SPFL this season. So on Sunday, 27th of August, it was announced that Hibs had sacked Lee Johnston after their defeat to Livingston. So that match just again finished 3-2 for Livingston. So Pearse, what is your reaction to Hibs sacking Lee Johnson?
I was a bit surprised, but you cannot argue that the start to the domestic campaign has been nothing short of woeful. We've touched on the last 2 weeks. Domestically, they've been shambolic at times in terms of defending. They're just leaking too many goals, although they're scoring goals, but they're not getting any positive results. And I think their European performances kind of masked and papering over the cracks. And even the back end of last season, they weren't great at times. And we called it the Osaki-ko last year when it was Aberdeen versus Hibernian, and Hibernian rocked the game about I think it was 6-1 or something. But he survived with the skin of his teeth that time. But it just didn't really improve. The results in Europe have kind of, like you said, I touched on, like they kind of mashed over it a little bit. But in terms of domestically, and obviously you've seen the post-match comments at the weekend, you've seen he was a man under severe pressure, and it just took his toll on him. And sad to see a manager lose his job, but I think it's probably for the best, because you can't have a club the size of Hibernian losing their opening 3 games of the SPL season, and they need to get results quickly.
Yep. I'm not fully surprised, to be honest. As you said, it is tough to see managers lose their jobs, but I just think, as if you look at Lee Johnson's time at Hibs overall for the whole time, it's just been so inconsistent. They've never really went on a run of games where they've picked up points game after game. They all seem to have had one good result, and then the next game they have a bad result. So it's just been so inconsistent for Lee Johnson's time in charge. And as you said, they've had a really bad start to the domestically this season. They've lost every game so far. The biggest problem is leaking goals. Defensively they're just not good at the moment. They just conceding goal after goal. Going forward, they're a good team. I feel with Martin Boyle, Eli Yuan, and the new boy Dylan Vente. That seems to be a good kind of attacking force, but defensively they're just leaking too many goals, and you're not going to win games if you concede goals. They didn't have a great start to European football as well this season. They lost to I can't remember their name now, but it was a really low team in Europe, which was a really disappointing result. Obviously they picked up, but obviously they got beat 5-0 off of Aston Villa during the week there, which again, okay, Aston Villa are a much better side, but to concede 5 goals is not good. So I'm not surprised, to be honest with you, with Lee Johnson being sacked as Hibs manager. And I just think with Hibs, it's that it's been they seem to be sacking manager after manager, and nothing seems to be improving. So there does seem to be a few issues there behind the scenes. So we were just touching there briefly on European football for Hibs. So there is Scottish teams in the second legs of their European ties this week, and they include PSV versus Rangers. So last week, the first leg of that tie finished 2-2. You've got PAOK Salonika versus Hearts. So last week, that match finished 2-1 to PAOK Salonika. And Aberdeen versus Hacken. Again, that match finished 2-2. And lastly, we touched on it just there, Hibs versus Aston Villa. And Aston Villa won that match 5-0. So, Pearse, how do you think these teams will perform in this week's European ties?
I'm not really going to be an optimist this week. I do think that obviously the first legs kind of tell half the story, but obviously it's still all to play for. But I think we'll go first touch on the Hibernian versus Aston Villa. We touched on it last week. I feel as if Hibs have done all they could in terms of the European journey, and it had to come to an end sooner rather than later. Because a club the size of Aston Villa, and with the pedigree players they got and the manager, they're tipped to win the competition outright, even though they're not in it yet. Because obviously they've got a manager called Unai Emery, who's won the Europa League, I think there's 4 or 5 times as a manager with 2 different clubs. And I just felt that Aston Villa, they thumped Everton the week before, last weekend. So they were in a rich vein of form, and they took out on Hibs, and they just showed the reason why there's like the quality and kind of class and personnel and the money that's in the Premier League compared to the Scottish Premier League is just night and day. So I do think it will be probably the same again. It's just about Hibs just trying to limit the goals that Aston Villa will probably hit against. So I'm predicting 4-0 Aston Villa. I think it will just be more of the same, and also down in England, Aston Villa at home they'll be in a buoyant mood. So I can only see 1-1 there. In terms of Rangers PSV, it's a carbon copy of last season. Will it be the carbon copy of the second leg? We'll have to find out, because it was 2-2 last year in the first leg at Ibrox, and then Rangers went away and won 1-0. And no one ever saw that coming last year. Can this repeat itself? Possibly, but I don't see it. I think Rangers themselves have been pretty good domestically, apart from obviously the blip at the start of the season against Kilmarnock on opening day. But that's expected when you've got all these new players getting bedded in. But I do think PSV will be buoying for revenge after last year failing to make the Champions League. And I just think, similar to Hibernian, I think Rangers have been leaking far too many goals, although they're a good goal scoring form at the moment. But I can only see 1-1. I think it'll be a 1-0 PSV. Hearts and PAOK Salonika. It was 2-1 at Tynecastle, which was an unexpected scoreline, because obviously you've seen Hearts the previous week had humbled Rosenborg, who's a former Champions League side. And I thought Hearts were... They took an early lead, and then they just kind of crumbled. And like we said, Greek sides in Europe, they're hard to call, hard to predict, because their crowds are so hostile, and they always kind of over people can underestimate them, and they always kind of exceed expectations. And that's what they've done again, because you thought like the hostile atmosphere of Tynecastle would be maybe too much for them, and you'd expect Hearts to continue their good form. But that just wasn't meant to be, and they never really hit the top gear in the second half. They just kind of puffed and puffed, but nothing really happened. And going away to Greece, Greece is a very hostile atmosphere. The fans are absolutely mental. And I can see Hearts going to Europe as well. I can only see a PAOK Salonika win. I'm going to say a 2-1 win again. So I think they'll probably fall to an aggregate. But the one I do feel optimistic about is Aberdeen getting an equaliser in the last 10 minutes against Hacken away in Denmark, which is a fantastic result, having been down 2-0 in the tie. And also taking it back to Pittodrie this week. I think they can go and do the job. I think they can easily win the game 3-1, and I've been thoroughly impressed by Aberdeen this season. The attacking talent they've got, I think they're more than capable of doing it. And yeah, that's my preview for this week's second legs.
Yep. Thanks, Pearse. So I'll just quickly run through mine as well. So PSV Rangers, as you just said, carbon copy of last season. I have to touch on the fact that game last week was a brilliant match to watch. It was such an end-to-end game. I thought PSV played really well on the night. I actually think they deserved to win. They had much more of the ball. They created so many chances, but Rangers, they did well to kind of keep bouncing back after PSV scored. So we've got the tie back in Eindhoven, which is a carbon copy of last season. I mean, it's so hard to call. I've got no idea how this game will go, to be honest with you. I'm just going to say PSV, just based on the fact that from what I watched last week, I just felt PSV played a better game than Rangers, although Rangers got a good result. I just think the fact PSV, I think they'll be much more motivated this time because of what happened to them last year when they got put out at home. And I just think PSV might just have a bit too much for Rangers on the night. But I would definitely not be surprised if Rangers pulled off the result. They done it last year. I think they are capable. So, but I'm going to say PSV. I'll touch on the Aston Villa versus Hibs match. So I think we can both say quite surely that tie's over now. A really, really poor result for Hibs, especially at their home ground, to lose 5-0. Obviously Hibs, as we just touched on, they've just sacked the manager. So they're going to go into this match at Villa Park and they're going to be low in confidence. Maybe the fact that they've got kind of a new manager, maybe there might be a little bit of a bounce. Maybe they might try a little bit more. Not try, but maybe, the motivation may be a bit more. I don't know. But yeah, I think that tie's already over and we can safely say that Aston Villa will be safely through that tie. So next match is the PAOK Salonika versus Hearts. So I actually felt Hearts were I felt they deserved to get something from the game last week. I didn't think they didn't deserve to lose, in my opinion. I felt that game was a draw, to be honest with you. I felt both teams were very, very even in the match. So obviously, Hearts now have to go over to Greece and they're down in that tie 2-1. They're not out this tie at all. They are more than capable of getting back into this tie and also winning the tie. But I just think because of the travel, first of all, so from Scotland to Greece, it's quite a travel. We did touch on it. Clubs in Greece, their fan bases are very, very hostile. That'll be a very hostile place for us to go to. I just think the fact that PAOK Salonika, the fact that they're 2-1 up in the tie, I think if they got the first goal in that tie, I think it's going to be it'll be a very long road for Hearts to get back into that. So I'm just going to say PAOK Salonika to win that. Just based on the fact that they are winning, and I just can't see Hearts turning that tie around. But at the same time, if they did, I wouldn't be surprised. They are capable. But I'm going to say PAOK Salonika to go through that tie. And then lastly, Aberdeen versus Hacken. So last week, Aberdeen did really well they were 2-0 down in that tie and they brought it back to 2-2. And they're now going into this, they've now got a home tie, 2-2. And, I think Aberdeen will do it. I actually think they played the better they played the better football last week as well in Sweden. I felt they played really well. And I think they will go through this tie. And I think Aberdeen will be playing Europa League football next season, this season, sorry, which will be a brilliant achievement for them. So yeah, these are my kind of predictions for this week's Scottish European ties. So we will now move on to reacting to last weekend's English Premier League results. So again, quickly, I'll just go through them. So Chelsea 3, Luton Town 0, AFC Bournemouth 0, Tottenham 2, Everton 0, Wolves 1, Brentford 1, Crystal Palace 1, Arsenal 2, Fulham 2, Man United 3, Nottingham Forest 2, Brighton 1, West Ham 3, Burnley 1, Aston Villa 3, Sheffield United 1, Man City 2, and lastly, Newcastle 1, Liverpool 2. So, Pearse, which match from last weekend's Premier League matches stands out to you?
Let's go with the heavyweight clash of Newcastle 1, Liverpool 2. I think that was a standout fixture of the weekend. And it didn't disappoint because there was drama right until the final whistle. Because you had the Newcastle, the new money, test himself against the big sides that have kind of been there and done that. And Liverpool are a European force. Although they had a terrible season last campaign, they still get tremendous talent in that squad. And Newcastle have been phenomenal last season, and the start to this season been pretty good because they blew away Aston Villa on opening day, although they did lose to Man City, and that's now them lost to two of the top four sides. But if Newcastle aspire to be a Champions League side in the regular, they need to try win these fixtures, and I somehow don't know how they've done that because they got off to the perfect start. They were 1-0 up for a brilliant goal through Anthony Gordon, and then obviously Virgil van Dijk gets a straight red card for lacklustre defending and a slight tug in the jersey. And he was last man, he was denying a goal score opportunity, so by the letter of the law, it was the correct decision. And there was debatable about a potential second yellow for Trent Alexander-Arnold. But I feel as if the first one was a bit harsh in terms of the booking, but it could have been worse. But then obviously Liverpool, they looked dead and buried, played the whole second half with 10 men, backs against the wall, defended brilliantly. And then Darwin Nunez off the bench grabs a double. And it's just unexpected because Darwin Nunez is obviously, he's quality, but he has been very inconsistent. And the two finishes were absolutely fantastic. To beat a goalkeeper of the standard of Nick Pope as well is pretty impressive. So that's the standout fixture for me. The Liverpool, through adversity, going down to 10 men yet again this season, because I think they've had 2 or 3 red cards at the start of the season in the first 3 games. And to win against Newcastle is a statement win for them, and it could kickstart their season.
Yep, I agree. That's my standout match from the weekend as well. It was a brilliant game to watch. Lots of things happening. Obviously Liverpool going down to 10 men so early on in the match. They were up against it. Newcastle were already 1-0 up in that match, and everybody thought this was just going to be a pretty comfortable Newcastle win, but it didn't turn out that way. Liverpool did really well defensively. They managed to keep Newcastle out. I feel Newcastle will be disappointed. I don't think they capitalised on the fact Liverpool went down to 10 men. I actually felt Newcastle played worse when Liverpool went down to 10 men rather than when Liverpool had 11 men on the pitch. So I think Newcastle will be pretty disappointed with that. And then, what a result for Liverpool. Darwin Nunez, that's going to do him the world of good. He's had a pretty tough time since he's joined Liverpool from Benfica. He's got a big price tag. But for him to score 2 goals in the last moments of the game, to win Liverpool the match, I think that could really kick his Liverpool career on now. And he'll obviously take a lot of confidence in that. And I'm sure Jurgen Klopp said that this result was bigger than when Liverpool beat Barcelona 4-0 at Anfield in the Champions League, which obviously goes to show how much Jurgen Klopp rates this performance. I think he also said that as well, was the fact that this Liverpool team is a pretty new team. Lots of players are new to this club. I think they started with a midfield of Wataru Endo, Alexis McAllister, and Szoboszlai, who all joined Liverpool this summer. So that just kind of says it all as well, the fact that, it is a pretty brand new team. So yeah, that's my standout match from the weekend. A really good match to watch and a fantastic result for Liverpool. So coming up next, we'll be reacting to the latest Scotland squad announcement. So Monday, the 28th of August, Scotland manager Steve Clarke announced his latest squad for the upcoming matches against Cyprus and England. So I'll quickly just run through everyone that's in that squad. So the goalkeepers are Zander Clark, Angus Gunn, and Liam Kelly. The defenders, Jack Hendry, Aaron Hickey, Scott McKenna, Nathan Patterson, Ryan Porteous, Andy Robertson, John Souttar, and Kieran Tierney. The midfielders, Elliot Anderson, Stuart Armstrong, Lewis Ferguson, Billy Gilmore, Ryan Jack, John McGinn, Callum McGregor, Kenny McLean, and Scott McTominay. And lastly, the strikers, Che Adams, Ryan Christie, Lyndon Dykes, Kevin Nisbet, and Lawrence Shankland. So Pearse, what is your reaction to the latest Scotland squad announcement?
I think again it's another strong squad. I think most of the players picked themselves because, like you say, Steve Clarke's done a tremendous job as a manager, and a lot of these players he stays loyal to. And the fact is, the last international break couldn't have gone any better. We've got maximum points, and most of them are the same players, apart from one noticeable potential is Elliot Anderson from Newcastle, who could set to win his first cap for Scotland. Born in England, but he qualifies through his Scottish grandparents, and he's played one under-21 cap for Scotland. but and he's only just kind of broke into Newcastle team in the Premier League, and I was impressed by him at his start to the season in terms of pre-season and the start of the Premier League campaign. I think he's a player that offers a lot of energy and attacking intent from that midfield. And he could be a good player to come on. I don't see him starting the game. I think he'll go with tried and trusted because like you see your Gilmores, your Jacks, your McGregor, your McLeans, your McGinns, your Armstrongs, they're like your kind of core. But like you say, potentially Jack and McGregor, I think they've had poor starts to the seasons, not to the lofty heights that they usually have, and obviously they've got the potential of Ferguson as well and McTominay. I think Ferguson started the Serie A campaign brilliantly, scored the winner at the weekend against Juventus. And then obviously McTominay's not really been playing much, even though he's the top goal scorer for Scotland. And his future's up there as well. So, and it was obviously good to have Shea Adams back because he missed the last camp through injury. So it's good to have him and Dykes up front together again because they two work so well together because the good link up play they have because like Dykes is a target man and Adams is he's not the most prolific goal scorer for Scotland, but he's just a willing runner and he wins fouls and he just causes the defence of the opposition no problems, serious problems. Sorry, but I do think obviously we've got a qualifier of Cyprus away. You expect Scotland to win away, but you never take anything for granted, because you have to always try your hardest and be right at it from the very off. Because, like you say, like Scotland away in major tournaments and major qualifying tournaments is we've not always get the best results. So we need to start well and defend as a unit because I think that's what we'll build on. But obviously, I think we'll do well, and I think I'm really happy with the squad. And obviously, you get an old enemy tie against England as well. So that's obviously one to whet the appetite because obviously Scotland and England it's quite a fierce rivalry. So even though it's a friendly, it's not really. So I'm really looking forward to the two games, and I think Scotland can beat Cyprus and give England another good game like they did in the Euro 2020.
Yep, absolutely. Obviously, I'll just briefly touch on the squad. Again, a really good squad. No real changes, to be honest with you. Steve Clarke does seem to just always keep the core of the squad. He always picks the same kind of squad. Obviously, the big name out of that is Elliot Anderson. He's got history with playing with Scotland internationally. He's played the under-21s, under-19s. I think he's been asked if he wants to play for Scotland, the men's team, before, but he's always. I think I think Steve Clarke said he wanted to think about it, and he's now eventually come to the decision that he's going to pledge his international career to Scotland, rather than England, which is obviously good news for Scotland. I think he's doing really well at Newcastle at the moment. He's part of that squad. So yeah, it's a really good addition to the squad. Obviously, he's a young player as well. It's good to see John Souttar back in the squad as well. We all know John Souttar's injury record isn't the best. He's had a tough time with injuries. But he started his Rangers season really well. I think he's played mostly every game, and he seems to have got through it pretty well. So yeah, he'll be a really good addition back into that Scotland squad for Steve Clarke. And yeah, just finally, just in terms of the two games, I think we both know. Well, I don't know. Maybe you might think this, but in my opinion, I think the biggest game here is the Cyprus game because that's the obviously the competitive match. Obviously the England match is competitive as well, but I think if Scotland beat Cyprus away, that could probably mean Scotland are probably at the Euros next year. It's that big a bigger match for them. So I think all eyes will be on that match for Steve Clarke. I think this Cyprus match is, I think this could really send Scotland to Euros, in my opinion. 15 points I think would be enough. And obviously the England match to take care of itself. There doesn't need to be any try to get motivated for that match. That match will take care of itself. And I'll be looking forward to that match if Scotland get through this Cyprus game well and they win. I can watch that England match with knowing that Scotland are fine and they're still going well. So yeah, really looking forward to this coming international camp. And yeah, it'll be really good to see Scotland back in action. So coming up next, we'll be discussing all the latest transfer news from around the globe. So we are now into the final week of the European transfer window. So there's lots of stuff happening, and lots of clubs are going to have a busy week. So Pearse, is there anything or any transfer news that you've been following recently?
Yeah, I've been really intrigued by the Scott McTominay situation. It's not really getting a look in at Manchester United. And obviously there's links this week to Bayern Munich, which I think is unbelievable if he can get a move to Bayern Munich, because I think there was a talk of a loan swap deal with Ryan Gravenberch, who Eric Ten Hag has known from his time at Ajax. But if Scott McTominay, who, like you say, he's a talented midfielder for Scotland, he's sensational. He's one of the standout players, key performers. He's Steve Clarke's side, but for Manchester United, he just doesn't fit the system, or they don't put him in the right position that suits him best. And obviously, he's got a lot of talented midfielders ahead of him, but I do think under a different manager, under a different system, he would thrive. And I think in the Bundesliga, play for Bayern Munich, I think his level would raise, and I think he'd be a brilliant performer playing alongside the likes of Goretzka, Kimmich, just to name a few. And I think it would raise his level, and obviously playing alongside Harry Kane as well, and Thomas Müller and Jamal Musiala, I think he'd be a good addition to them, because they're looking for a more holding midfielder. But I think if he played alongside Kimmich as a holding midfielder, I think he would thrive, and I think he would do really well. So that's kind of the news that I've been following in Europe.
Yep. I'm going to say that there's one situation I'm keeping a close eye on, and it's Joao Felix from Atletico Madrid. So he returned to Atletico Madrid this summer after a loan spell at Chelsea. Sorry about that. And he's not played any part for Atletico Madrid this season, and there's been lots of talk that he's dreaming of a move to Barcelona. It's a club he wants to go to. I think Barcelona are kind of looking into it. And I think it is one to keep an eye on. I wouldn't be surprised if something happens on the last day where we see Joao Felix at Barcelona. So that's definitely one that's pretty interesting to me. I'm just going to just briefly touch on two clubs. I think Celtic and Man United are going to have two clubs for me are going to have busy weeks. I think Celtic will be looking to sign at least 2-3 players, maybe even more. With obviously their injury record at the moment, which is, pretty bad. So I think Celtic will be looking to be pretty busy this week. And Man United as well. I think Sofian Amrabat, who had an amazing World Cup for Morocco, I think apparently he's not kind of part of the Fiorentina squad at the moment, and apparently he's pushing to sign for Man United. So I think that's one as well that's really interesting to keep an eye on. But yeah, final week, there's going to be things that are going to come out of nowhere, and obviously next week me and you will be discussing all the confirmed signings and everything that's happened. So yeah, looking forward to discussing that more next week. So for the final part of the show, Pearse will now give his Asian football roundup.
Yeah, so some Asian football news to get started. So Daegu FC will host an open friendly against J League One side Sagan Tuso on the 8th of September, as K League One side wants to keep their match sharpness during the international break. The KFA have also announced another international friendly for South Korea. They travel to Cardiff City Stadium to face Robert Page's Wales side on Tuesday the 7th of September, and the kick-off is 7:45 local UK time. South Korea will play the following fixtures this kind of the next month or so. So we've got Wales against South Korea, in the 8th of September. Then you've got South Korea versus Saudi Arabia on the 13th of September. And then still to be confirmed a venue for the South Korea versus Tunisia match, which is set for 13th of October. And then South Korea are going to play Vietnam sometime in October as well. So fans will also get their hands on Panini's K-League player cards from September, as they'll be sold exclusively at 7-Eleven convenience stores. This is the first time in South Korean history, and I anticipate they will fly off the shelves like hotcakes. So FC Seoul defender Lee Han-Beom has departed for Denmark on Saturday the 26th of August, as he's now joined Danish side FC Midtjylland, and he's going to be playing alongside his fellow countryman Chuggu Sung. So he signed for a fee of 2 billion won, which is roughly £1.2 million. Lee, 21, debuted with FC Seoul last year, and he played a total of 51 games in the K-League 1. Lee Han-Beom is one cap at under 23 level for South Korea, and he's yet to be called up at senior level, although he has been named in the South Korean squad for the upcoming Asian Games. This is what he had to say upon his move to FC Midtjylland. I'm happy to come to Europe and join FC Midtjylland. Now, the most important thing for me is to make a difference on the pitch. I have seen several of the team's matches, and the offensive attacking style of play was part of the reason I wanted to come here. My dream is to join the Korean national team, and here at the club, I aim to win trophies. These are my goals for the next year. And this is what Chuggu Sung, his teammate, has had about his new teammate. I don't know him personally, but we've played against each other a few times. I know about his history in the K-League 1, and it will be cool to play in the same team as him, and I hope we become close teammates. So Lee Han-Beom can make his debut for FC Midtjylland on Thursday as they take on Liga Warsaw in the second leg of the Europa Conference League playoff tie. Daejeon Hana citizen midfielder Jun-Ho has departed for England on Sunday the 27th of August to finalise his move to Championship side Stoke City. And here's what Bae has had to say on his potential move. I always imagine playing football in Europe. This is like a dream come true, but I want to think that it's only just the beginning. It won't be easy, but I want to adapt to England and to Stoke City as soon as possible and show good performances. And that's all your kind of Asian football news in terms of the league results. So now we're going to the league action. So we'll start off with the G League 1 action. So on Friday, 26th of August, we Shonan Belmer 0, Urawa Diamonds 1. Saturday, the 27th of August, we had Kashi Antlers 2, Alberts Niigata 0. The shock result of the weekend was in the Yokohama Derby. Yokohama FC 4, Yokohama F Mariners 1, Cerezo Osaka 3, Nogo Grampus 1, Vissel Kobe 2, FC Tokyo 2, Kawashiro Reysol 0, Sanfrecce Hiroshima 0, Kawasaki Frontale 2, Hoikuro Consadole Sapporo 2, Kyoto Sanga 2, Avispa Fukuoka 0, Sagan Tosu 1, Gambo Osaka 1, and that's now all the top three sides have all failed to win this league, win a game this weekend, which leaves the title race and relegation battle wide open. So in terms of the league table, it's leaving it looking like this. So top of the table, we've still got this Yokohama F Mariners on top, 25 matches played, 50 points, and then right behind them, Vissel Kobe 49 points, who gained a point on the other two because Yokohama and Nagoya Grampus both lost this weekend. So now they're only 1 point behind Yokohama F Mariners with 9 games to play. So Nagoya Grampus on 45 points in third position, and Urawa Diamonds in fourth position with 44, and Kawashi Antlers on fifth position with 42 points, and is Cerezo Osaka on sixth position with 42 points as well. So as you see, that for second position and third position in the table, it's so tight. You've got 4 sides, 5 sides separated by 7 points, and then obviously from 36 it's only separated by 3 points. So it's all to play for in terms of the title race, and it's going to go right down to the wire. So set for exciting into the season. In terms of the bottom half of the table, it's exactly the same. At the foot of the table in the 18th position, we've got Shonan Belmer on 17 points, and in the 17th position, Kawashiro Assault on 20 points, and then Yokohama FC with a short result the weekend, now on 21 points. So that's kind of lifted them up to 16th position, so they've now got a fighting chance of staying in the division. And with a result the weekend like that, when some of the goals that are scored were outstanding, so that will give them confidence going into the final 9 games of the season. So in terms of the Key League One action, that kicked off on Friday, the 25th of August. There was 2 fixtures played. Suwon FC 1, Incheon United 2, Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors 1, Daejeon Hana Citizen 1. And then on Saturday, the 26th of August, with 2 matches played, and that was Daegu FC 1, Jeju United 0, Gangwon FC 1, Pohang Steelers 1. And then to round it off, Sunday, the 27th of August, FC Seoul 2, Ulsan Hyundai 2. And then the game of the weekend, the final match of the weekend was Gwangju FC 4, Suwon Samsung Blues 0. And I've got a match report of that game on the Football Chuggu website, so give it a read. It was a fantastic game. And a shout out to the second goal of the game, scored by Jasir Asani. You'll struggle to see a better goal, better team goal anywhere in the world. It was to die for. The intricate 1-2s and even the finish was outstanding. I highly recommend going to check out that goal on YouTube. So at the top of the table, we've got Ulsan Hyundai, 28 matches played, 61 points. Second position, we've got Pohang Steelers with 50 points. And then on third position, we've now got Gwangju FC into the top 4. They've now leapfrogged Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors, although they're in the same points, but now they've got a better goal difference. And they're right in the race to come second. You really back them because obviously they were newly promoted this season, Gwangju FC, and they've been the surprise package of the Key League One season, and they've been refreshing to watch, and sometimes their football has been outstanding at times. And no, for me that was the result of the weekend, and that's how the top of the half of the table is looking. In terms of the bottom half, we've got Gangwon FC, rock bottom, 21 points, and then we've got Suwon Samsung Blue Wings right above them in 22. And then you've got a wee bit of distance between them and Suwon FC, who have now got 26 points. So it's set for an end, thrilling into the season in terms of that fight for second position. So we've got 3 teams battling that out. I think Ulsan Hyundai have kind of taken their foot off the gas a little bit. Still got an 11-point lead over the second place Pohang Steelers, and I think Gangwon and Suwon, the 2 Suwon teams, have they've been struggling all season, and I think again that could change toward this season because we've still got plenty to play for. So it's set for a thrilling into the season, and that's all your latest Asian football news.
Thank you, Pearse, and thank you everyone for listening to this episode of the Football Chuggu Podcast. This podcast will be available to listen to on the Football Chuggu YouTube channel and also the Football Chuggu website. Thanks for listening and see you soon.
Bye-bye.